Tim Lennon on Facebook Live. With Dan Hilsman, here's a lively conversation with a 1,200 agent franchisee joining a leading eXp influencer and eXp founder Glenn Sanford about why and what's the future of real estate for agents.
Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. Hit that subscribe button below.
We started at the bottom in 2009 in October, and so now we're in our 14th year growing the enterprise. But in some respects, it started almost 21 years ago when I got my real estate license, because it's been knock on wood, I've literally never had a year where we did less business than we did the year before since I got into the business. So it's continued to grow, just in a different structure, different way every year.
So you got in, if I remember, that's a phenomenal record, first of all, because I've been doing it a few years, and I've definitely had down years. So you've had a great run of it overall. But you got in at a time when Keller Williams was just kind of coming out of the ground, right? Did you start with Keller Williams?
I did. Well, no, I didn't start. I started at Prudential, which is now Berkshire Hathaway. So I started with Prudential back in 2002, April 29th, 2002. I got licensed with them. Did a couple of years with Prudential, and then I went to Keller Williams in 2004. And by 2006, I was in the top 50 nationally with Keller Williams. I think they were 40-something thousand agents at the time, and then went independent in 2007, and then started eXp in 2009. So, but fairly short time frame to go from brand new agent to launching a new brokerage concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And a phenomenal process as it went. I've heard some stories from Gene Fredericks about how you were able to get him on board, traveling around the country to enlist folks like him. So that's great. Great stories as I've heard them. I don't know how true they are, but I'm going with his stories.
Yeah, there you go. The stories always sound better than as they mature than was when it was actually being done. So.
Yeah, well, I think there was a story about you traveling in a van or some kind of
a motor coach. Yeah, we did do that.
Yeah,
did 10 months on the road full time without a house to go back to. So we wanted to push the envelope on how remote a company could you actually run your company with. And so back then you had to have a good cellular connection, and at that time there was some cool quasi tech that was coming down that said you could get high-speed internet, as much high-speed internet as you wanted on your cell phone. But by 2 months into our trip, the data plans changed considerably, and it started to cost me about $600 to $800 a month just on my data plan overages.
So that was at a time, if I recall, you started the company right during the recession.
We did, yeah. So prior to eXp, I ran a company called Buyer Tours Realty, and so we were a buyer-based, internet lead gen, team-based brokerage, and we were running teams in 6 different cities around the United States, and we had 6 of the top-ranked websites in the U.S. So I was a SEO, internet marketing guy prior to real estate. When I got into real estate, we built a number of websites to the top of the search engines. And then scaled a number of teams in so doing, and we're up to 4 physical offices in 2008, and then the market turned, and so we closed down 3 of the offices. We actually took one of our teams that we were running as Buyer Tours Realty in Arizona, and we actually got rid of the brokerage and moved all the agents into HomeSmart, which was a brokerage there in Arizona.
Yeah.
And then that Brian Colhane led the team there. And then in 2009, we went about building out what the business model for eXp Realty would be, and then launched it, and then eventually brought them back from HomeSmart to the new model. But yeah, this was housing market was pretty tough. and we had to figure out a way to build a defensible real estate brokerage model that wasn't dependent on bricks and mortar, so that we could have a profitable real estate brokerage in both good times and bad times. And that was really how do you do that? I mean, why start a business if all you're going to do is lose money? And there's a lot of companies that, figured out ways to run those types of businesses, but I didn't want to be one of them.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sticking with it. The idea that you started with was something that I had a partner with mine at Remax that we tried to initiate some virtual offices in the early 2000s. And it just was not the right time for people to embrace that kind of move. And even though that was big time for the internet, right? It was just not something that, especially in Georgia, where people are traditional, they wanted to have that office. And moving to that virtual concept made perfect sense to us, but it didn't make any sense to the agents. So that must have been somewhat of a challenge, even at that point, 08 and 09, when we're still coming into our own as an internet kind of world. We weren't there yet.
Yeah, so 2000. So the unique piece of 2009, we had a couple things working to our advantage. One, high-speed internet had finally got to most homes in America. So if we looked at 2002, we were on dial-up internet in almost every home in America. But by 2009, we were cable high-speed internet in almost every home in America. And so for us, we said, okay, we finally got high-speed internet, and that was the enabling technology to do what we really wanted to do. Because even though you could technically be 100% remote with dial-up, uploading photos to the MLS and doing all the stuff that we needed to do as real estate professionals, it's time consuming, and it's a pain to just sit there and wait for the computer to do whatever it was going to do. And but we did recognize that even in 2009, we were still a little early, but we also recognized, kind of like using the Wayne Gretzky quote, we wanted to skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is or has been. And so for us, we said, hey, the internet's going to get faster and faster. A lot of these technology pieces that are still pretty clunky, they're going to get worked out. But if we don't, establish ourselves now as a fully, virtual real estate brokerage with a new model, somebody else will do that in the future. And of course, the companies that do it first, continue to enjoy very significant market share down the road. So by being first, you could think about it's almost like Amazon, Netflix. I mean, you just look at so many of these new companies with new concepts, the ones that got solid traction and built out right in the early stages. They are dominant multi-billion-dollar businesses. And so for us, we said, hey, this is where the industry is going. Let's build it now, recognizing that technology will provide what we need in the future, but let's get the infrastructure in.
Yeah, no, it's just brilliant, honestly. And it was risky. I mean, I've been in the industry for a while, so it was a risky move, I think. And, I don't know that people really fully can understand how much you had to be forward thinking to be a first mover in the real estate industry. So, we went from a real traditional world in real estate where brokers were, they were the king of the hill. And then you moved into kind of a Remax era, which is I was part of that process where, Remax was a nothing when I started there, and that was huge. And Keller Williams came along and had a really nice kind of difference attitude to how they approach the industry by approaching it with agents in mind. And now we've moved into an entirely different kind of frame of reference with agents being the center of the organization versus the broker. So I want to make sure you know Dan Hilsman. I know because you've probably seen his name, run into him in halls in the meetings that have been going around the country. But Dan has been in the eXp for slightly longer than me. Dan, how long have you been here?
A little over 4.5 years.
Okay. And in 4.5 years, he was with a brokerage that I had started, not unlike what you had started, Glenn, but actually we were watching you at eXp. And I had started a cloud brokerage with a Craig Proctor training system behind it. and totally virtual, one office, 140 agents, had built it up to it, and watched you guys coming out of the ground in about 2015 or 16 and got it built there and was going, I had a partner. And I said, these guys are doing all this. I've already done this once. Why don't we take this whole brokerage to eXp? And at about that time, Dan came along and said, hey, gang, I love you to death, but I'm going to eXp. Is that about right, Dan?
I said, respect what you've done in Metro Atlanta. Glenn, I don't think you probably don't know, but Tim had the highest sales in the world for a broker owner for Remax 22 years in a row. So then he retired and was the broker at the company that I was at. And then, I had to call up Tim and the owner and said I was leaving and going to eXp. And then about 2 weeks later, Tim, because I did not recruit Tim. For the record, this is being recorded. I did not recruit my broker. But he did call me about 2 weeks later and say, actually text me and say, can I pick your brain about eXp Realty? And we had conversations for about 4 months. And then I did sponsor the broker that was at the company that I left prior to coming to eXp Realty.
Which was he made the right move at the right time with some other great people at eXp. So that was about the time, just right after a couple major movers had joined, right? Because in watching eXp, I was trying to see if it was headed in the right direction, because I'd been with Remax for almost 27 years. And I'd watched that grow, and I'd watched like people making decisions and not necessarily agreeing with them. And while we were the biggest brokerage for Remax, we didn't get the choice in what they did. That was Dave Liniger and vice presidents, et cetera. So I was real curious. I spent a lot of time on leadership meetings when I first joined eXp, watching and listening to you guys. And that was right after you had moved from was it penny stocks to NASDAQ? I think it was right about that.
Yeah. So we moved from the over the counter. So we were in the OTC QB to NASDAQ. So we uplisted NASDAQ in 2018.
Yeah, which was huge. I mean, that's just huge.
It was kind of fun in that we knew where we were going. But it was really interesting when we were trading on the OTC, how many people said, oh, it's just a penny stock, it's this and that, whatever. And, I knew I'd been involved with a lot of small public companies over the years. So I had some experience in that. And I knew, where we were going. So every time somebody would poo-poo it, I'd go, man, that's just another thing they're going to be wrong about. At some point in the future, it's going to come back and bite them. And sure enough, we uplisted, and it's been, and now we've got the highest market cap of any organized real estate brokerage.
It's just phenomenal.
So it's pretty crazy to think about the fact that we have a higher market cap than Remax, than Compass, than Open Door, and then there's some smaller players as well. I mean, Zillow has a higher market cap, but they're not really a brokerage. They're a portal. They have a totally different business model. Anywhere, which is of course owns all the real Century 21 Coldwell Banker ERA. Sotheby's, we have a higher market cap than they have. So it's pretty interesting just to think about the fact that, even though our market cap has come down because the housing market has been under pressure, we still maintain and should outperform our peers just from a market cap perspective.
I think just based on watching the financials and listening to leadership and what you've done and trying to both spread wide as well as vertical, the revenue streams that are going to be coming into the company are going to be pretty significant. And Dan is a major influencer inside of eXp. And I think he's nearing maybe at between 900 and 1,000 agents in his organization. So he's done a great job, building within the system and helping a lot of agents. I think that's the big part of it that I like. I'm a little older than both of you, so I get to come at it from the position of I've already climbed this mountain once. I'm anxious to do it again, but the second time around, I'm doing it for fun, and I'm doing it to help people and pay for the bills while I travel and have fun. Dan, on the other hand, is out there really putting in hours. So I know, Dan, you probably have some questions for Glenn or some thoughts. I don't want
Yeah,
to
sure.
the conversation.
No, I've enjoyed listening. I'm super excited and grateful to be on here. But yeah, one of my questions, or the main question really, Glenn, is what are you the most one or two things excited about for 2023 with eXp Realty?
Well, there's been a number of things that we've been innovating on for a couple of years that are finally in the process of getting rolled out in the ecosystem. So we bought in 2020, we bought Showcase IDX, and so they're based there in Atlanta, Georgia, but but inside of that, we came up with a number of ideas and things that we wanted to do. One, they built out our national exprealty.com portal, but we're the first nationwide single brokerage in the country, which makes us very, very unique relative to anybody else that's out there that's got a nationwide footprint. So we're in the process now of coming out with some things that will roll out, I think, in the next 2 weeks. That will be game changers for agents. So I don't want to, blow the press release or the opportunity to really promote it, but when we roll it out, it will be one of these jaw-dropping moments for agents thinking about, what does this mean for me as an agent, being a part owner and being an agent in a nationwide brokerage, and tools that they're going to be able to take advantage of that historically they've never been able to do without getting licensed in different states and then putting in the infrastructure to do some things. So we're automating and building out some really cool tools. So that's one I've been talking to a lot of people behind the scenes on, and without going into what that is, it's something I'm really excited about.
If I can just give a shout out right there to Scott Lockhart. Scott was my CTO at Remax Greater Atlanta. So when I saw that you guys had purchased them, I got on the phone with Scott and said, "Thumbs up, man! Glad you're here." So he was great. He's doing a great job.
Well, you might be able to pick his brain and go, well, "What are you guys getting ready to do?"
I don't need to. I'll let him keep working on it. I know he's working hard.
Yeah, he is. So, so that, and then, obviously, I reassumed the CEO of Realty title as of January 3rd, and that's part of how we got on this call, because I basically said, hey, if people want to do things that they're going to broadcast socially about eXp, we want to make sure that agents have an opportunity to learn about eXp, and if I can help you create an audience, or we can leverage the audience that you built to continue to tell the story of eXp. Our whole mission is to be the most agent-centric real estate brokerage on the planet. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to do it in a way where the company is actually profitable and sustainable. Right now, it's kind of a weird time in real estate because, for a while, quite a few years, money was cheap on Wall Street. Money was super inexpensive. You could go raise money. We've never raised money from Wall Street. All of it's been, it's over 70% of our company, or close to 70% of our company, is owned by agents, brokers, staff, and founders, which is pretty incredible. But for a while, you can look at the Open Doors, the Compasses, and the list goes on of companies that raise tons of money with no intention of ever running a profitable company, with the idea that they would just pick up market share and that Wall Street would be there to help them buy market share. And one of the things that we've been historically profitable on an EBITDA basis since 2019. And so that for us is like, how do you build a company that will last a long time? One, it's kind of like Warren Buffett. You build companies that are profitable. They don't have to be hugely profitable, but they have to be able to pay their bills from the cash flow from operations of those businesses. And so for us, that was, when we started the company, we said, how do we build a company that's sustainable in good times and bad times? And we really dialed in this model. So when an agent joins us, they don't have to worry about, whether we're going to be here for the long run financially. We're super solid with what we've built, and I think it's just going to become more and more attractive, as we continue to grow over the next 5, 10 years or more.
I think the way I phrased it to Dan earlier, he was asking, what are we going to talk about? I was like, well, here's how I look at it. I've been doing this a long time, and I watched the traditional companies. I was part of that. I was helpful with Remax getting its foot in its place in the real estate world. And this is the next iteration of what agents will be doing, what real estate will be doing for agents, which is that ownership piece and having a part of profit, having a part of revenue, having a part of really getting some of the benefit along with the stock for what you do every day without actually having to do anything else. That's the part that I think is the most remarkable. I had to have overhead. I had to have building, capital, personnel, all of that. I can walk in here, not have to have any of that, and build an organization like Dan's built. And I had 1,200 agents. He's got 1,000. I guarantee his name is not on the line of as many loans as mine had to go on to get there.
Right. And in reality, I mean, when you look at the reduction in stress level to actually run an organization of that size, and then you think about it from a long-term passive income perspective, it trumps owning a franchise.
Absolutely.
Even if you ran a really great franchise, it takes a lot of work, to make even just a few $100,000s a year after all your expenses. And Dan, of course, is with coming up on 1,000 agents, he's in that few $100,000s a year category of passive income.
Yep. Which don't tell his wife.
Hopefully she's not watching.
I know we've only got a few minutes left. Dan, I want to give you a couple opportunities. Are there any questions for Glenn?
That was my main question. I was super excited to ask that question. So it sounds like the IDX showcase and whatever we're going to talk about here in a couple of weeks is going to help one of my biggest opportunities, which is helping agents to grow and stay qualified and then become capping agents and icon agents. So I'm excited about whatever that opportunity may be. But that was my main question today. I wanted to be excited about what Glenn was excited about.
Well, and I'm psyched about all of that as well. Like I said, the technology piece has always been dear to my heart, so I like that part. The other part, though, to be honest, is our international expansion. I was talking to an agent yesterday with Berkshire, and I mean, her eyes just lit up when I discussed my goal. Dan, you've got agents in 27 states, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more than 25 and several hundred in Canada, and I think one Mexico and maybe Brazil. So, yep.
So that's just for me. I've had the luxury, good fortune of being able to travel, and being able to go meet somebody. I'm going to plan on Rome in the summer of this year to see who I can talk to about joining and being part of what we're doing. So it's like I get to travel, talk real estate, have fun doing what I'm doing, but you get to travel all over the world. When your eyes light up when people see that you can actually have a brokerage all over the world on your own without having any of that heavy franchise investment. That's huge.
And you get to actually turn some of that into an actual business expense. So you need to get to use part of your Rome travel as a business expense.
I think pretty much I'll do that, and I'll make sure that it's all documented so the IRS knows I won't take any risks. So yeah, but you're absolutely right. And I've got friends all over the world. So I've got, a lovely time to be able to look at traveling and bringing agents into a business that, by the way, to your point of having spent a lot on technology, I think in 2008, I was on a safari and spent $800 on my phone bill, right? While I was running a brokerage here. And now I can do that all via WhatsApp or Facebook Workplace and have all the interaction that I need to do business anywhere, anytime at no additional real overhead. That's just incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a little bit of roaming charges, but that's about it.
If you get a French telephone or an Italian telephone, it's not that bad.
There you go.
All right. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time. As soon as I heard you say that you were willing to jump on a Facebook Live, I think while we were in the meeting, I scheduled that with you. And I appreciate you being willing, because I'm really just for everybody out there, I'm a nobody at eXp, i.e. I'm an agent. I have some people in an organization, but small. I'm just selling real estate, having a good time, having fun. watching people be able to get things that they never could have gotten in the world that I was in before with Remax. So I'm delighted to see what we're doing. I really believe this is the next iteration of real estate for the real estate agents. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you,
Awesome.
Glenn.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Dan. And chat soon.
Thanks.
See you,
Best.
shareholders.
See you soon.
Okay. See you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Give me a call. Tim Lennon, 404-368-2607.